Welcome to Out of the Blue, number 429.45. Today we're going to be reading out of this book. My Dream of Heaven, Intra, Muros, Within the Gates, by Rebecca Ruter Springer. So, I'm going to put this in context. So there's four sources we use. We're talking about Neo-Swedenborgianism. The four sources are Swedenborg's writings, near-death experience writings, spiritualist writings, and physiological writings. So physiological is just the actual science of physiology. The rest of these are not science. But the spiritualists, we have four main sources. Monsignor Hugh Benson, J. Hewitt Mackenzie, Francesco, which is Wanderer in the Spirit Lands, which I've talked about before, and Rebecca Ruter Springer, which is this book right here. And there's some commonalities, and the commonalities are water, friends and family, light, and purpose. So we have purpose, water, friends and family, and light. So Swedenborg, the near-death experience, and the spiritualists, when they encounter this realm, and they describe this realm, you see all these things in it. And even, I don't know if I really mentioned this, but Monsignor Hugh Benson talks about this hospital in the afterlife bathed in a blue light. And that's one of the sources of this, why I call this the blue. Because I want this to be a bathing in blue light, so to speak. But for now, I'm going to read one of the source materials, which is this book. We are in chapter 12. She says, after we left my parents and friends on our return from our welcome to my sister, my brother hastened away on some mission, and I walked on alone toward the sacred lake. So just that first sentence. So she has her parents and friends. Her sister recently entered the afterlife, and they welcomed her. Her brother, who's actually her brother-in-law, but she speaks of him as her brother, hastened away on some mission, and I walked on alone toward the sacred lake. So here we have three of those four things I mentioned. So the four things being purpose, water, family and friends, and light. So the brother walks away on some mission. So there's some purpose to what he's doing. And she walked on toward the sacred lake. Okay, so you have water, light, family and friends, and purpose. I'll continue. She says, I felt the need of a rest in its soothing waters after the exciting scenes through which I had passed. I had hitherto visited the lake in the early morning hours. It was now something past noontide of the heavenly day, and but few persons lingered on the shore. The boats that spread across its calm surface seemed to be filled rather with those intent upon some duty than simply pleasure seekers. You see, purpose. They're intent on some duty. They have a purpose. She continues, I walked slowly down into the water and soon found myself floating as at former times in mid-current. The wonderful prismatic rays that in the early morning were such a marvel, now blended into a golden glory, with different shades of rose and purple flashing athwart their splendor. To me it seemed even more beautiful than the rainbow tints, just as the maturer joys of our earthly life cast into shadow somewhat the more effervescent pleasures of youth. She's describing the light here, right? So just in this one page, we have light, water, family and friends, and purpose. She continues, I could but wonder what its evening glories would be, and resolved to come at some glowing twilight and see if they would not remind me of the calm hours of life's closing day. I heard the chimes from the silver bells of the great city ringing an anthem as I lay, and its notes seemed to chant clearly, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty. The waters took up the song, and 1,000 waves about me responded, Holy, holy, holy. The notes seemed to vibrate, if I may use such an expression, upon the waves, producing a wondrously harmonious effect. The front row in the battalion of advancing waves softly chanted Holy as they passed onward. Immediately the second roll of waves took up the word that the first seemed to have dropped as it echoed the second Holy in the divine chorus. Then it, too, passed onward to take up the second note as the third advancing column caught the first. And so it passed and echoed from wave to wave until it seemed millions of tiny waves about me had taken up and were bearing their part in this grand crescendo, this wonderful anthem. Language fails me, and I cannot hope to convey to others this experience as it came to me. It was grand, wonderful, overpowering. I lay and listened until my whole being was filled with divine melody, and I seemed to be part of the great chorus. Then I, too, lifted up my voice and joined with full heart in the thrilling song of praise. So here she is floating in the sacred lake, listening to the peals of a bell from a distant city echoing in the waves of the lake. She continues, I found that, contrary to my usual custom, I floated rapidly away from the shore whence I had entered the water, and after a time was conscious that I was approaching a portion of the lake's shore I had never visited. Refreshed and invigorated, I ascended the sloping banks to find myself in the midst of a lovely suburban village, similar to the one where our own house was situated. There was some difference in the architecture or construction of the houses, though they were no less beautiful than others I had seen. Many were constructed of polished woods, and somewhat resembled the finest of chalets one sees in Switzerland, though far surpassing them in all that gives pleasure to the artistic eye. As I wandered on, feasting my eyes upon the lovely views about me, I was particularly pleased by the appearance of an unusually attractive house. Its broad verandas almost overhung the waters of the lake, the wide, low steps running on one side of the house quite to the water's edge. Several graceful swans were leisurely drifting about in the current, and a bird similar to our southern mockingbird, but with softer voice, was singing and swinging in the low branches overhead. There were many larger and more imposing villas near, but none possessed for me the charm of this sweet home. Beneath one of the large flowering trees close to this cottage home, I saw a woman sitting, weaving with her delicate hands, apparently without shuttle or needle, a snow-white gossamer-like fabric that fell in soft, fleecy heap at her side as the work progressed. She was so very small in stature that at first glance I supposed she was a child, but a closer scrutiny showed her to be a mature woman, though with the glow of youth still upon her smooth cheek. Something familiar in her gestures, rather than her appearance, caused me to feel that it was not the first time we had met, and growing accustomed now to the delightful surprises that met me everywhere in this world of rare delights, I drew near to accost her when, before I could speak, she looked up, and the doubt was gone. And then the woman sitting there recognizes her, and they have a reunion, and they're friends. So this idea, but I'm going to end there. We're at almost 10 minutes now. Growing accustomed now to the delightful surprises that met me everywhere in this world of rare delights. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a world of rare delights. Where basically studying the near-death experience, studying Swedenborg and the spiritualist writings as they present them. And what I'm doing is mapping out what they describe with the assumption that it is an aspect of human physiology. Okay, so this is Neo-Swedenborgianism. I'm Chris Marshall, the progenitor of Neo-Swedenborgianism. And thanks for watching.